Oh, Dokie. Third place. I like the sound of that. How you doing, everybody? I'm feeling good. I had a feeling they were going to win tonight. They made it. They made it a little more interesting than probably anybody watching would have liked. This was a strange game. I think really from maybe not from start to finish, but it definitely had a lot of interesting nooks and crannies that I'll talk about in a second. But let's get the big stuff out of the way first. Number one, Jalen Brunson is, it's cool because it always happens locally before it happens nationally, and this stuff goes in cycles, right? So, and the cycle started last season, right, when the Knicks got him, and then we started to see it night after night after night, and we were like, oh, this guy's one of the best point guards in basketball. This guy is looking like he's going to be an all-star caliber player. And then as we were doing that, national media started to catch up and be like, wow, okay, well, I guess that Jalen Brunson contract was pretty good after all. And by the time that national media narrative caught up, we were already on to seeing like, oh, wait a minute, is this, as we got closer to the playoffs and then in the playoffs, we were getting closer to like, wait a minute, are we sure we need a guy who's better than this guy to win a championship? And that was, I think, part of the conversation that surrounded this team over the summer and towards the start of the year. And then as the NBA media, national media at large, was continuing to just kind of fumble over themselves and making themselves look like idiots with some of the ridiculousness of what was being said, we were just watching this guy produce night after night after night, leading this team to, what was at the end of January, one of the best records in the sport, and really looking like a team that could challenge to win a title. And that's when, again, it takes a while, the national media started to be like, oh, well, I guess maybe the Knicks are like serious business. And then is when things kick into overdrive. It's like when the DeLorean in Back to the Future, where he puts whatever the hell he puts into the flux capacitor and the blue lights light up and zoom. And since Julius Randle went down and OG Anunoby went down initially, and now OG's back, a span of time, what the hell is today? April 9th. So I think that's not quite a month and a half. We're at a month and 13 days. So close enough to a month and a half, or 2.5 months, excuse me. Jalen Brunson's just, I was going to say he's a top 5 player, and there's no question about the fact that he's been a top 5 player over that time. And even that, I'm not sure does it justice. I mean, he's the second leading scorer in the sport. He has the highest usage rate in the sport. He is one of the only stars that is playing on a good team that doesn't have another all-star caliber player alongside of him, and he is leading them to way more wins than I think a lot of people would have expected, given the length of the absences of Julius Randle and OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson. And he is continuing to do it in a way where you have to just see it to believe it, because like 45 points and 8 assists, it's like, okay, yeah, Luka puts definitely up some more audacious stat lines for sure in terms of like the assists and obviously the rebounds, because he's just a much bigger human being. But you watch these games and you could be tempted if you're not watching the games to just look at the final point total and then like look at the assists and be like, yeah, but is he, is the passing really there? Is he always making the right play? And yet we're watching possession after possession, and I don't know, like, how many shots that Jalen Brunson took tonight would you be like, yeah, that wasn't really a great shot there? I maybe I'm biased because I think at the percentages that he's shooting it, a shot off of his fingertips that's like remotely open is just a better look than anything else the Knicks are going to get. And so really the only question is like just continue to keep his teammates involved. And it's not like other guys aren't getting up their looks. OG Anunoby, 18 shots. Dante DiVincenzo, 15 shots. Deuce McBride, 10 shots. Like other guys are getting shots up. So it's not like the rest of his teammates are getting out in the cold. When somebody's open, he passes to them. So he's making the right play every time, in addition to scoring it almost every goddamn time he touches the ball. I mean, 45 points on 24 shots. What are we doing here? What, like, where? So we're at this point in the conversation now, and I'm wondering, as MVP ballots they're going out, I think next week, and all of the voters are going to vote for their first team All NBAs. And like again, I said it after the last game. I'll say it again now. You want to put the best player on the best team on your first team All NBA. All right. I mean, I get it. I get it. Jason Tatum's had an awesome season, but I'm sorry, you can't put that guy ahead of Jalen Brunson for MVP. And like, frankly, and I feel bad saying this because he just went down with a non-contact injury to his calf, and we're going to talk about the impact that's going to have on everything that's going on. But like, I mean, at this point, I kind of just need to openly ask the question: are we sure that Giannis Antetokounmpo should go ahead of Jalen Brunson on MVP ballots? Which is like, again, that sounds insane. It sounds insane. But then you remember, all right, the Bucks at the beginning of the year, they were supposed to be one of 4 genuine, true blue championship contenders, along with the Nuggets, Celtics, and Phoenix Suns. Those 4 teams, people have short memories, but like those were the 4 teams we had above everybody else. They had the 4 highest over-unders, with the Clippers kind of hanging around there, like, if the Clippers could put it all together. Well, the Suns I'm looking at their game now. They are down 37-8 in the first quarter to the Clippers in Phoenix. And yet there are still going to be people who think like, oh yeah, well, Kevin Durant, he's had a better season than Jalen Brunson. Sure. Okay. That's great for you. But so put them aside, but the Bucks have so woefully underachieved. I know Giannis is putting up numbers that literally nobody else has ever put up in the history of the sport. And that's part of Brunson's tale too, because he's doing things on offense in an era of unprecedented offense. So when you see things like third most 30-point games in Knicks history, which he achieved tonight, and you see things like third most 40-point games in Knicks history in a single season, and shout out to NBA New York's Twitter account, he's already third all-time total, all seasons, for 45-point games after tonight. When you see numbers like that, like, yeah, you do need to take them with a grain of salt, just as far as the historical comparisons go. So, but I just don't know how anybody watching this, but I guess long story short, for as much as that it has taken a long time for the national conversation, the national discourse to catch up to what we are seeing and we are observing night after night after night. And by the way, that's not everybody. Like, we know the smart people who are out there who are actually watching the Knicks on a consistent basis. JJ Redick had a fantastic shout out to Chris Persianen, got a shout out on JJ Redick's Old Man in 3. JJ Redick had a fantastic discourse on Brunson on his show the other day. I thought Zach Lowe said some pretty nice things about how Brunson is doing things in terms of his creativity with the dribble. On his pod that dropped today, but we know that not everybody watches every Knicks game, even people that purport to be people who follow this team closely. So I just hope that because of the audacity of the numbers that is being put up right now, and the fact like the 40-point games and he's going to be right. If I don't know what the hell he's going to do over the next 3 games, but he has a chance to be right there with Luka in terms of scoring average in the league since Julius Randle went down. I hope it doesn't take them that long to catch up, because what he's doing is just, I could just speak for me personally. I have never watched a stretch of individual brilliance by a player in a Knick uniform in my life. And I came into this team in the 93-94 season. I was 10 or 11, whatever it was. Like, I don't remember it that well. I remember, though, that team being a great team first and foremost. But I also remember Patrick being the foundation. As long as he was out there, we had a chance to win. But like this, you put this right next to Patrick in those mid 90s teams, and if you want to go early 90s, maybe even late 89, 90. We had the discussion on the pod today about, Melo 12 and 13. And there were some other little stretches in there, like Stoudemire had several weeks where he looked like one of the 5 best players in the NBA. Even, nobody wants to hear this. Kristaps Porzingis had that glorious 3-week stretch where we were like, oh my God, he's the second coming. This is 2.5 months. And it's 2.5 months. And by the way, what he was doing before we got to the 2.5 months was pretty special too. Like he was already an all-star before that. Now it's just at a different level. I could talk about Jalen Brunson for the rest of this live stream, but I'm going to spread the love a little bit. So after Brunson, lots of big numbers tonight, specifically from OG Anunoby. 24 points, 10 of 18 shooting. His shot looked good. Great to see that. Dante DiVincenzo, 8 of 15 shooting, 21 points, 6 assists. Went a little cold from deep, but I thought the other kind of not co-MVP because Brunson's in a class of his own. Hart had a very nice game. Deuce McBride with some big buckets at the start of the fourth quarter. A couple of really nice drives. Man, what talk about changing perceptions. That dude's changing all of our perceptions about what, or so. Now, I don't want to group everybody else because some people have always believed he's changing my perception more and more with each passing night. But the other guy for me tonight is Isaiah Hartenstein, and Mitchell Robinson is going to be a big part of this team. As we see, Slam is dropping a cover with the 3 Nova Knicks on it tomorrow. Mitchell Robinson is going to be a big part of this team in the playoffs. He's going to need to be. He's got another 2 weeks or a little less than 2 weeks, 11 days, 12 days, whatever it is, to get his conditioning back to where it needs to be. That's important because the dude that we saw out there tonight, like that guy is not going to be all that helpful to the Knicks in the playoffs. And so when Isaiah Hartenstein was not in the game, you felt it tonight. And I know the numbers weren't crazy tonight, but again, like lo and behold, when this team needed some big buckets there throughout the course of this game, who was there with the floater was Isaiah Hartenstein. Like he's just been such a godsend. I am kindly going to ignore the fact that I'm not even going to bring it up. I will just say the Knicks absolutely have a very good chance of re-signing Isaiah Hartenstein this summer. And they could still pay him more than than the mid-level exception. And so it would take a team dipping into cap space and putting forth an obscene 4-year offer to get Isaiah Hartenstein away. And oh, by the way, the Knicks could still offer a 5th year. Nobody else can. They're still, I believe, in the driver's seat when it comes to re-signing Isaiah Hartenstein, and suggest that he is gone because he has had a wonderful season. I would kindly disagree with, and I'll leave it at that. But so yeah, great night from Hartenstein, and some other Knicks really had great nights too. I thought Emmanuel quickly gave the Knicks some really good minutes tonight off the bench. I thought, when Mitch didn't have it, when Tibbs put in Kyle O'Quinn, I thought Kyle O'Quinn gave them some. I'm loving what I'm seeing from Kyle O'Quinn lately off the bench on this team. I thought Jared Jeffries' energy off the bench really top notch. Only for a couple of minutes, but like I see you, Jared Jeffries. I see you in that Knick uniform, and then the other guy, he gets forgotten about because I know since they traded for Allen Houston, he's coming off the bench. But John Starks, don't think I don't see you coming off the bench hitting big threes for this team. Okay, I'm watching every game, and I see what you're doing. So really, absolutely big performances up and down the roster. And, if you're a diehard Knicks fan and you watch, all the games, obviously you see all those players that I'm talking about that perform for this team in the blue and orange every single night. Last thing I'm going to say is in case anybody was wondering whether or not Tibbs is in playoff mode, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart did not sit in the second half of this game. Boyan Bogdanovic, after what was a fairly rough first half, I guess Boyan Bogdanovic does not like playing in Chicago. 1 for 4 in 9 minutes. Did not see the court in the second half of this game. Precious Achiuwa did not see the court at all in this game. This was a 8-man rotation. Needless to say, Alec Burks did not see the court in this game. And I was keeping track of this just like I did in the last game. And by the way, I know I spoke about Deuce before. I mean, the volumes that it speaks that he stuck with Deuce, I thought, for as long as he did in the fourth quarter. Deuce played 22 minutes. Deuce played more minutes tonight than Mitchell Robinson. Deuce played the 6th most minutes on the team. Like, you want to talk about organizational belief and belief from your coaching staff? Big time. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Only one stretch of this game, and it was a stretch at the very end of the first quarter where there was less than 3 starters on the court. And that stretch that I'm talking about, there was Mitch, Bogey, and Deuce on the court. So, yeah, Tom Thibodeau, not fucking around. And he's not fucking around because he knows what's at stake, and he knows where this team could get to if it continues to win.